The massive alien ship appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning, its metallic hull gleaming under Earth's sun as it settled into orbit. Global defense systems went wild, and military bases worldwide raised their alert levels. The ship was nearly 2 miles long, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. World leaders gathered in an emergency United Nations session, while the alien vessel maintained its position, silent and imposing. After 3 hours of tense waiting, the first transmission arrived. "We represent the Galactic Council," the message stated in perfect English. "We come to evaluate Earth's readiness for galactic civilization." The UN Secretary-General, an older man named James Wilson, stood before the assembled leaders. His hands trembled slightly as he drafted Earth's response. "We welcome peaceful contact and look forward to joining the galactic community." The Council ship's response came quickly. "We will send representatives to your United Nations building in 12 hours. Prepare your leaders." Military advisors suggested caution, but the political decision was made to show trust. When the alien shuttle landed in New York, it was met with honor guards and red carpets instead of tanks and missiles. The aliens emerged, tall, elegant beings with smooth gray skin and flowing robes decorated with strange symbols. Their leader, who called himself First Speaker, carried himself with an air of superiority that many human diplomats found unsettling. Inside the UN chamber, First Speaker didn't sit down. He stood at the podium, looking down at the assembled human leaders with what could only be described as disdain. "We have observed your species for several of your years," he began. "We have reached our conclusion. Earth is too aggressive, too unstable for membership in the galactic community." Murmurs of protest filled the chamber. Wilson tried to speak, but First Speaker raised a hand, silencing him with a gesture. "Your species wages war constantly. You pollute your planet. You create weapons of mass destruction. You show aggression in everything you do." The alien's voice grew colder. "The Council has decided. Earth will be placed under protective quarantine." "Quarantine?" Wilson's voice cracked. "What exactly does that mean?" "For your own protection and the safety of galactic civilization, Earth will be isolated. Council ships will maintain a blockade of your solar system. No spacecraft will be permitted to leave Earth's atmosphere." This is not a negotiation. It is a notification. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Russian representative stood up, his face red with anger. "This is an act of war." First Speaker's expression didn't change. "Your species always turns to thoughts of war. You prove our point. The quarantine begins immediately." Council warships are already moving into position. On screens around the chamber, satellite feeds showed dozens of massive ships emerging from what appeared to be tiers in space. They took up strategic positions around Earth, their weapons clearly visible. "You can't do this." The American president stood now too. "We have rights as a sovereign planet. You have the right to live in peace under our protection." First Speaker replied, "Be grateful." Some council members suggested more permanent solutions to the Earth problem. The message was clear: accept the quarantine or face destruction. As the emergency session continued, military bases worldwide reported more council ships arriving. Fast-moving escorts zipped between the larger vessels, creating a web of overlapping coverage. Earth's most powerful weapons would be useless against such an armada. First Speaker departed as suddenly as he had arrived, leaving behind a single communication device. "For emergency contact only," he said. "Though I doubt we will have much to discuss." That evening, as world leaders struggled to explain the situation to their citizens, the true scale of the quarantine became clear. Council ships had positioned themselves in a perfect defensive grid. Their energy fields created a barrier that no Earth vessel could penetrate. In Washington, London, Beijing, and Moscow, military commanders presented their options to their civilian leaders. The outlook was grim. Earth's combined military might wasn't even close to what would be needed to challenge the Council fleet. What the Council didn't know, however, was that humanity had no intention of accepting their fate quietly. In a secret facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General David Miller looked at the message on his screen and allowed himself a small smile. It was from the Mars colony, the one Earth had kept hidden from the Council's observers. "Project Guardian is ready," it read, "awaiting your command." The Council thought they had humanity trapped. They were about to learn how dangerous a trapped animal could be. 2 weeks into Earth's quarantine, a young clerk from the Council ship risked everything to reach out. The message came through an old radio frequency, bypassing the official communication channels. "I need to speak to your leaders," the message said. "What I have to tell you will change everything." General Miller sat in the underground command center, studying the message with his advisors. After careful screening, they arranged the meeting in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath New York City. The alien clerk was smaller than the other Council members they'd seen, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. He introduced himself simply as Tom, a name he'd chosen to seem less alien. "The quarantine is a lie," Tom said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Everything first speaker told you was a cover story." Miller leaned forward. "Explain." "Earth isn't being quarantined because you're too aggressive." Tom pulled out a data crystal. "You're being contained because you're too successful, too advanced, too promising." The crystal projected images into the air, charts, reports, and secret Council meetings. The truth was worse than anyone had imagined. 6 months ago, our deep space scanners detected something unusual in your asteroid belt, Tom explained. "Signs of mining operations you'd kept hidden from our observers. Advanced operations." Miller's face remained neutral, but inside, his mind raced. The secret mining bases had been operating for 5 years, extracting rare elements needed for Project Guardian. "Then we found traces of advanced shield technology in your lunar bases," Tom continued. "Technology that shouldn't be possible for a planet at your development stage." It scared the Council leaders. "Why help us?" Miller asked. "You're risking everything." Tom's eyes narrowed. "Because the Council is corrupt. The wealthy world strip resources from developing planets, keeping them weak and dependent. They did it to my homeworld. I won't watch it happen again." He showed more projections, plans for mining ships disguised as patrol vessels, hidden weapon platforms being moved into position. The Council didn't plan to protect Earth. They planned to rob it. "They'll start with small demands," Tom explained, "requesting certain minerals for safety inspections. Then they'll find problems, require more resources to fix them. Within 10 years, Earth will be stripped of everything valuable." Miller shared a look with his team. "How long before they start?" 3 days. The first mining ships are already hiding among the patrol fleet. Once they begin, the Council will claim it's all for Earth's protection. Any resistance will be labeled as proof of your violent nature. In Washington, President Robert Banks received the report in his underground bunker. The Council had forced world governments to operate from secure locations, claiming it was for their safety during the quarantine. "Can we trust this information?" Banks asked during the emergency video conference. "Our deep space sensors confirm everything," Miller replied. "The ships matching Tom's mining vessel descriptions are already moving into position. We have 3 days before they start stripping our solar system bare." The Chinese premier's voice crackled over the secure line. "Then we have no choice. We must activate the Mars protocols." One by one, world leaders agreed. They had spent years preparing for first contact, hoping for peace but planning for war. Now those plans would be put to the test. In orbit, the Council ships maintained their blockade, unaware that beneath the surface of Mars, vast hangars were opening. The ships inside were unlike anything the Council had ever seen, a perfect blend of Earth innovation and recovered alien technology. "How many ships can we deploy in 3 days?" Banks asked. "All of them," Miller replied. "The entire Guardian fleet is ready. We just need to wait for the right moment. Tom had returned to his ship with a small device hidden in his sleeve, a quantum transmitter that would let him warn Earth when the mining operation began. He had given humanity a chance. Now it was up to them to take it. In the Rocky Mountain facility, Miller watched the countdown begin. 3 days until the Council showed their true colors. 3 days until Earth showed theirs. The Council thought they were dealing with a primitive, violent species that needed to be contained. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't violence. It was preparation. Deep beneath the red sands of Mars, General Miller walked through the massive underground hangar. The sight still took his breath away. 50 warships, each one a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Status report. He called out to his chief engineer, Dr. Anna White, who was checking readings on a tablet. "All ships are at full power," she replied, her eyes gleaming with pride. The Council has no idea what they're about to face. 10 years ago, a routine Mars mining operation had uncovered something extraordinary: the ruins of an ancient alien base. Inside, they found technology beyond their wildest dreams, including designs for advanced shield systems and gravity drives. But humanity hadn't simply copied the designs. They had improved them. "Show me the improvements on the flagship," Miller ordered, following Anna to the largest ship in the hangar. Named Terra's Hope, it stretched nearly half a mile long, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "The original shields we found in the ruins were good," Anna explained, bringing up a holographic display. "But we made them better. We found a way to make them absorb energy attacks and use that power to strengthen themselves. The Council's weapons will only make us stronger." Above them, through miles of Martian rock, the Council fleet maintained their blockade of Earth. Their sensors, impressive as they were, couldn't penetrate the specialized jamming field that hid the Mars base. They still believed humanity was trapped and helpless. In the ship's command center, Miller reviewed the tactical displays. The Council had positioned their ships in a standard blockade pattern, effective against the level of technology they thought Earth possessed, but full of holes when faced with what humanity had actually developed. "The Council thinks they understand war," Miller said to his command staff. "But they've grown soft. Their weapons are designed to disable ships, to capture them intact for salvage. They fight like merchants, not soldiers." On the main screen, a simulation showed how the Council's formation would break when faced with ships that could appear seemingly out of nowhere, protected by shields that turned enemy fire into additional power. "What about the stealth systems?" Miller asked. Anna pulled up another display. "Better than we hoped. The gravity drives don't just move the ships. They bend space slightly around them. As far as Council sensors are concerned, our ships simply won't exist until we want them to." In another section of the base, crews loaded special missiles into the ships. These weren't simple explosives. They carried computer viruses designed to infect and disable Council systems. Another human innovation the aliens weren't prepared for. A junior officer rushed in with a message from Tom, their ally on the Council ship. "Sir, the mining ships are moving into their final positions. They plan to begin operations in 6 hours." Miller nodded. Everything was proceeding exactly as expected. The Council's greed would be their undoing. "Begin launch preparations," he ordered. "All ships to battle stations." Throughout the underground base, klaxons sounded. Crews ran to their positions. Engineers made final checks on systems that had been tested thousands of times before. "What do you think the Council will do?" Anna asked. "When they realize what we've built here?" Miller allowed himself a small smile. "They'll do what bullies always do when their victim turns out to be stronger than they thought. They'll panic." The roof of the massive cavern began to split open, revealing the Martian sky above. The Council ships in orbit around Mars were too focused on Earth to notice the tiny vibrations in the planet's surface. "All ships report ready," the communications officer announced. Miller took his position on the bridge of Terra's Hope. Around him, other ships powered up their gravity drives. Years of preparation were about to pay off. The Council wanted to teach humanity a lesson about our place in the galaxy, Miller said to his crew. Instead, they're about to learn one themselves. Never underestimate a species that has spent its entire history preparing for threats exactly like them. As the ships lifted silently from their hidden base, Miller thought about how the Council would react. They expected to find a primitive species cowering behind their blockade. Instead, they were about to face an enemy they had helped create, a humanity united against a common threat, armed with technology they had improved rather than simply copied. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. First Speaker stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching as the mining vessels moved into position around Earth. Everything was proceeding according to plan. His crew worked quietly, confident in their complete control of the situation. That confidence lasted exactly 3 more minutes. "Sir," a sensor operator's voice cracked with alarm. Multiple ships appearing out of nowhere. They're everywhere. The tactical display exploded with new contacts as humanity's hidden fleet suddenly appeared. The Council ship's sensors hadn't detected any approach. The human vessels had simply materialized around them, their gravity drives bending space back into normal shape. "Impossible," First Speaker whispered. All their intelligence said Earth had no such technology. General Miller's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Attention Council fleet. This is the Earth Defense Force. Your ships are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." First Speaker's face darkened with rage. "Launch fighters. Target there." He never finished the order. The human ships opened fire first, their advanced weapons slicing through Council shields like paper. But they didn't destroy the ships. They targeted engines, weapons, and communication arrays with surgical precision. "Sir," another operator called out. "They're shields. Our weapons aren't hurting them. The energy is being absorbed somehow." In the command center of Terra's Hope, Miller watched the battle unfold. The Council ships tried to maintain formation, but they were fighting blind. Human vessels slipped between their defensive lines, appearing and disappearing at will. "Launch viral packets," Miller ordered. Special missiles streaked toward the Council ships. Instead of exploding, they attached to the hulls and released their payload, highly advanced computer viruses that began shutting down system after system. The Council's mighty warships started going dark, their crews trapped inside as life support switched to emergency power only. "This is impossible." First Speaker raged as his own ship's systems began failing. "You're savages. You can't have this technology." "We're not savages," Miller replied calmly over the comm. "We're survivors, and we've been preparing for this day for a very long time." The mining ships tried to flee, but they found themselves trapped. Hidden drone ships that had been placed in the asteroid belt months ago now activated, creating a web of gravitational distortions that made escape impossible. Tom, their ally on the Council ship, had done his part perfectly. The mining fleet had been positioned exactly where Earth's forces needed them to be. "All Council vessels have been neutralized," reported Anna from her tactical station. "No casualties on either side." The viral attacks worked perfectly. They're dead in space, but their crews are safe. Miller nodded with satisfaction. They had deliberately avoided killing anyone. This wasn't about revenge. It was about sending a message. "Begin boarding operations," he ordered. "I want control of every Council ship within the hour." Teams of Earth Marines, wearing powered armor that had been reverse-engineered from the Mars ruins, cut their way into the disabled Council vessels. They met little resistance. Most of the alien crews were too shocked to fight back. First Speaker's ship was the last to be boarded. The Council leader was found in his command chair, still trying desperately to restart his ship's systems. "How?" he demanded as Earth Marines surrounded him. "How did you do this?" Miller's voice came through the Marine speakers. "You made 3 mistakes. First, you assumed we were primitive because we chose to hide our true capabilities. Second, you thought you could threaten our world without consequences. But your biggest mistake, you gave us time to prepare. The battle was over in less than 30 minutes. Not a single life had been lost on either side. Earth's fleet had disabled and captured over 40 Council vessels, including their entire mining fleet. In orbit around Earth, citizens watched through telescopes and news feeds as the Council ships went dark one by one. Cheers erupted in cities across the planet as word of the victory spread. But Miller knew this was just the beginning. The Council would send more ships once they learned what had happened. But now, they would face a united Earth, armed with advanced technology and the will to use it. The real war was about to begin. 1 week after Earth's victory over the blockade fleet, General Miller stood on the bridge of a captured Council ship. His engineers had not only learned to operate the alien vessels, but had improved them with Earth's technology. Status report on the Council's response. He asked Anna, who was monitoring deep space communications. Exactly as we expected, she replied. They're gathering a massive fleet. 300 ships, heading straight for Earth. They'll be here in 5 days. Miller smiled. Perfect. They're reacting exactly like we predicted. Are our special teams in position? All teams report ready, Anna confirmed. Operation Shadow is go. While the Council gathered their armada, they didn't realize that smaller, stealthed Earth ships had already slipped past their borders. These ships carried elite teams of hackers and special forces, targeting the Council's key infrastructure. The first strike came at midnight Earth time. On 12 major Council worlds, power grids suddenly failed. Trade networks went dark. Communication hubs stopped transmitting. The Council's mighty economy, built on the exploitation of younger races, began to crumble. Sir, a junior officer called out. Team 7 has seized control of the Council's primary banking network. On the main screen, financial data scrolled past. The Earth teams had found proof of everything. Every stolen resource, every bribed official, every suppressed civilization. And now this information was being broadcast across the galaxy. The Council's response fleet suddenly found itself facing a different kind of crisis. Many ships were turning back as their homeworlds called for help. Others were stopping to verify the shocking information being spread about their leaders. Launch Phase 2, Miller ordered. Earth's main fleet, now including upgraded captured Council vessels, jumped into action. But they didn't attack the Council fleet directly. Instead, they began appearing at trading outposts and space stations across Council space. At each location, Earth forces transmitted the same message. We are not your enemy. We fight only those who would exploit others. Join us or stay neutral. The choice is yours. The Council's grip on power had always depended on their control of trade routes and their reputation for technological superiority. Both were now crumbling. Report from diplomatic team, Anna announced. 7 independent trading worlds have already pledged support to Earth. They're tired of Council control. In his private chambers on the Council capital world, High Commander Rex watched his empire falling apart. The humans had not destroyed a single ship or taken a single life. Instead, they had done something far worse. They had exposed the truth. Sir, his aide reported nervously, the outer colonies are demanding answers. They're threatening to break away from Council control. The Council's response fleet, originally gathered to crush Earth, was now scattered across space trying to maintain order. But they couldn't fight an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Back on Terra's Hope, Miller received another update. Council military forces are standing down on 6 more worlds, the report read. Their commanders are refusing to fight once they learned the truth about the mining operations and the viral attack on their military network. Miller asked. Anna grinned. Complete success. Every weapon platform, every automated defense system, we control them all. Their mighty military equipment is now little more than expensive decoration. The Council had spent centuries building their power through secrecy and manipulation. Earth had destroyed that power in less than 2 weeks, not through violence, but through information and precision strikes at key infrastructure. Message from Tom. An officer reported. The junior council members are calling for an emergency session. They want to discuss peace terms. Miller nodded. Earth's strategy had worked perfectly. By attacking the Council's economic and information systems rather than their military forces, they had achieved victory with minimal bloodshed. Send word to all Earth forces, Miller ordered. Phase 3 is authorized. Move to secure the Council's capital world. As Earth ships appeared in formation around the Council capital, Miller thought about how quickly everything had changed. 2 weeks ago, the Council had thought they were containing a primitive species. Now that same species was dismantling their empire. But the real work was just beginning. Removing corrupt leaders was easy. Building something better in their place would be the true challenge. The next phase of the war wouldn't be fought with ships and weapons, but with ideas and principles. And humanity was ready for that battle too. The Council's grand meeting chamber looked very different now. Where once the senior council members had sat in their elevated seats, looking down on others, now they sat in custody, watched by Earth security forces. Tom, their former spy, now stood at the main podium. His role in helping Earth had made him a hero to many younger council races. Behind him, representatives from 20 different worlds waited to speak. The evidence is clear, Tom announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. Former first speaker and his inner circle deliberately suppressed developing worlds. They stole resources, crushed innovations, and kept younger species from advancing. On massive screens around the chamber, proof of their crimes played out. Records of secret meetings, hidden bank accounts, and orders for military actions against peaceful worlds. General Miller watched from the side, letting the Council worlds handle their own justice. Earth forces had made sure this trial would be fair, but the Council needed to clean its own house. The humans showed us a better way. A representative from a younger Council world spoke up. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they chose to expose the truth and help us reform. In the defendant's area, first speaker stood up angrily. Everything we did was to maintain order. These younger races aren't ready for advanced technology. Look what the humans did with it. Yes, look what we did. Miller finally spoke, stepping forward. We developed shields that protect rather than weapons that destroy. We created computer systems that disable rather than kill. Every advancement we made was designed to minimize harm. The chamber erupted in supportive shouts. Many Council worlds had watched in amazement as Earth forces had taken control without a single casualty. But more importantly, Miller continued, we're willing to share our innovations. No more suppression. No more holding worlds back. It's time for a new council. Tom nodded and activated another screen. We propose a new structure. No more permanent senior members. Leadership positions will rotate between all member worlds. Every voice will be heard. In the public viewing galleries, representatives from dozens of worlds watched. Many were from planets that had been kept out of the council, told they weren't ready. Now they would have their chance. Earth's forces will help maintain order during the transition, Tom announced. But we're not here to rule. We're here to help build something better. The vote that followed was almost unanimous. The old council leadership was removed from power. A temporary governing board was established, with members from both older and younger worlds. First speaker and his inner circle were led away to face trial for their crimes. But true to their principles, Earth had ensured they would receive fair treatment and proper legal representation. In a private chamber after the session, Miller met with Tom and other reform leaders. Several council worlds are still resistant to change, Tom reported. They've benefited from the old system for too long. Miller nodded. We expected that. That's why our ships will remain in key positions, not to threaten, but to protect the reforms. A young representative from a formerly suppressed world spoke up. My people have many questions about Earth's technology. Will you share it with us? We'll share what's safe to share, Miller replied. But more importantly, we'll help you develop your own technology. Every world should advance in its own way, at its own pace. The news spread quickly across Council space. Worlds that had lived in fear of the Council's military power now saw a different future, one where advancement was encouraged, not suppressed. Message from Earth, an aide reported to Miller. The President wants to know when you're coming home. Miller looked out at the stars through the chamber's grand window. Tell him we're not done yet. The old Council is gone, but building a new one will take time. We need to make sure this change lasts. Across Council space, ships were returning to their home worlds. Trade routes were reopening, and for the first time in centuries, younger worlds were free to develop without interference. The galaxy was changing. The age of suppression was over. And humanity, the species that the Council had tried to contain, was helping lead the way to a better future. But there was still one more step to take. 1 year after the Council's fall, the galactic capital was unrecognizable. The once imposing Council Tower now hosted representatives from over 200 worlds, including many that had been previously excluded. General Miller stood at the window of his office, watching ships from dozens of different species coming and going freely. Among them were Earth's vessels, no longer hidden but proudly displaying their colors. Final report ready, sir, Anna said, entering the room with a datapad. You'll want to see these numbers. The statistics were remarkable. In just 1 year, trade between worlds had increased by 300%. Scientific advancement had accelerated as worlds shared knowledge freely. And perhaps most importantly, no conflicts had erupted between member worlds. The last of the old Council leaders have been sentenced, Tom announced, joining them. He had been elected as one of the rotating Council chairs, representing younger worlds. They'll spend their time helping develop the worlds they once suppressed. Miller nodded with satisfaction. Earth's influence had changed even how justice was handled. Punishment had been replaced with rehabilitation and restitution. And the technology sharing program? Miller asked. Better than we hoped, Anna replied. Earth's innovations are being adapted by different worlds in unique ways. The Centauri colonies are using our shield technology to protect their planets from solar flares. The Rigel systems have modified our gravity drives for atmospheric cleanup. A chime announced another visitor, President Banks, having traveled from Earth for the day's historic ceremony. Ready for the big moment? Banks asked Miller with a smile. Almost hard to believe, Miller replied. A year ago, they wanted to quarantine us. Now we're about to lead the biggest change in galactic history. They made their way to the Grand Assembly Hall, where representatives from every member world had gathered. The old Council's massive throne-like chairs had been replaced with a simple circular arrangement, symbolizing equality among all worlds. President Banks took the podium, his voice clear and strong. 1 year ago, humanity faced a choice. We could have used our hidden strength for revenge. Instead, we chose a harder path, the path of reform and unity. The assembled representatives listened intently as he continued. Today, we ratify the new Galactic Charter. Its first principle is simple. No world will ever again be suppressed or exploited. Every species has the right to develop at their own pace in their own way. The charter appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Its rules were clear and fair. Power would rotate between all member worlds. Technology would be shared responsibly. Resources would be traded, not stolen. Earth pledges its fleet not to enforce our will, Banks declared, but to protect these principles. Any world that needs help may request it. Any world that wishes to learn may do so. The vote that followed was unanimous. As the charter was ratified, cheers erupted throughout the chamber. Representatives from once oppressed worlds embraced those from older ones. Ancient rivalries began to heal. Tom stepped forward to make the final announcement. With the charter ratified, we have our first rotating council. And as nominated by dozens of worlds, Earth will hold one of the first seats, not through force or fear, but through the trust they've earned. Miller watched from the side, thinking about how far they'd come. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not through superior firepower, but through wisdom and restraint. "What's next?" Anna asked quietly. "We explore," Miller replied. "There's so much of the galaxy we haven't seen. So many worlds that might need help. But this time, we go openly, as friends rather than hidden observers." Outside the chamber, the news spread across the galaxy. Markets soared as trade restrictions fell. Universities opened their doors to students from all worlds. A new age of cooperation and advancement had begun. In orbit above the capital, Earth's fleet stood watch, their advanced shields and weapons no longer secrets but symbols of protection. They had become guardians not through conquest, but through choice. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by being the strongest or the most advanced, but by being the wisest. They had turned potential enemies into allies, replaced fear with hope, and transformed an empire of suppression into a federation of equals. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had hoped for.